the NBA is in trouble. All-star ratings hit historic lows. Finals viewership cut in half. Fans are tuning out, players are leaving, and the game we loved is slipping away. This isn't just a slump, it's a crisis. Why is the NBA in real danger? Well, let's talk about that in today's video. Let's start with the numbers, because they don't lie and they're not looking good. In just 1 year, the NBA lost around 18 to 19% of its TV audience. That's not a small dip. That's a steep drop, and it's not just the regular season. The All-Star Game in 2025 recorded one of the lowest ratings in its history, falling another 13% from the year before. That's a game that used to be a mid-season spectacle. Now it barely makes a ripple. And the finals? That's where things get even more alarming. Viewership has been cut in half compared to what it was in the 90s, or even the early 2000s. We're talking about the league's biggest showcase, the climax of the entire season, drawing some of the smallest audiences in modern memory. Part of the problem is that when big market teams crash out, so do the viewers. When the Lakers were eliminated this year, ratings dropped by 38%. When the Knicks followed, the numbers tanked even further. And that's a major issue because advertisers pay for eyeballs. When those eyeballs disappear, so does the money. That means less investment, fewer high-profile matchups, and more caution from networks about airing NBA games in primetime slots. But the viewership problem isn't just about who's playing. It's about how the game is being played. And that brings us to the next issue. The product itself is changing and not everyone's buying in. Here's the truth. Fans are getting bored. Not because the players aren't skilled, but because the game itself has become predictable. Everything now revolves around the three-point shot. Teams are launching threes at a historic rate. And while that sounds exciting in theory and practice, it's killing the rhythm of the game. You watch one team swing the ball around the arc for a corner three, then the other team does the same, over and over. There's barely any variation, no real creativity, and the uniqueness that used to define different teams has faded. It's like watching the same game on repeat, just with different jerseys. What made basketball compelling in the past was balance. You had mid-range killers, dominant post players, slashers, shooters, all coexisting on the floor. Today, the mid-range is almost extinct, and post play is treated like a relic. The beauty of footwork in the paint, the tactical chess matches in the mid-range, that's all being pushed aside in favor of efficiency charts and heat maps. The result? A league full of teams that play almost the same. Offenses are homogenized. It doesn't matter if you're watching Houston, Indiana, or even Boston. You're often seeing a near identical structure. Pick and roll, kick out, three-point attempt, rinse, repeat. That makes it hard for fans to emotionally connect to styles or identities the way they once did. And while all of this may look good on a spreadsheet, it's hurting the live product. The emotion, the unpredictability, the diversity of styles, those are the things that kept people watching. Without them, there's less reason to stay locked in for 48 minutes. But this shift in play style didn't happen in a vacuum. It's part of a much bigger trend, where analytics are taking over, and it's pushing out the very players who used to hold teams together. Analytics have their place in basketball, no doubt. They've helped teams become smarter with shot selection, rotations, and even player development. But there's a growing problem. It's gone too far. Front offices today are so locked into efficiency numbers that they're starting to overlook something essential, impact that can't be measured. Guys like Alex Caruso, PJ Tucker, Jonas Valanciunas, these players aren't showing up on the advanced stat sheets the same way a high-usage scorer does, but they show up in wins, they make the key stop, they box out when it matters, they hold the locker room together, and slowly they're being pushed out of the league. And a big reason for that is the new financial structure. Adam Silver's two-apron system, meant to create parity, is instead creating a hard ceiling that's squeezing out the middle class of the NBA. Teams can't afford solid, dependable veterans anymore. They have to choose between maxing out 2 stars or keeping depth, and in most cases, the depth is gone. What's left is a top-heavy roster with no glue guys, no identity, and no margin for error. That used to be where championship teams were built, on the backs of players who weren't flashy, but made the whole machine work. Now, they're being replaced by minimum contract rookies or two-way projects who may not be ready for that stage. The result? Sloppier basketball, less chemistry, and fan bases that can't recognize half their team from one year to the next. But this problem doesn't just affect the quality of the floor, it's also hitting the biggest draw the NBA has always relied on. It's big market teams. And when those teams suffer, the entire league feels it. For decades, the NBA was built on the backs of big market dynasties. The Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, the Spurs. David Stern understood that having dominant teams in major cities wasn't just good for competition, it was good for business. When those teams thrived, the league thrived. National TV ratings soared, primetime games felt like events, and advertisers poured money into the league because they knew millions were watching. That model doesn't exist anymore. The new cap system, especially with the two-apron restrictions, has leveled the playing field financially, but it's also stripped big market teams of the flexibility that once made them powerhouses. Teams like the Lakers or Knicks can't leverage their spending power or market advantage the way they used to. They can't stack depth or lure mid-tier veterans to round out the roster. It's either stars or nothing. And when those stars underperform or get injured, there's no safety net, no depth to pick up the slack. That's how you end up with early playoff exits. And when big market teams bow out, so do the casual fans. This past postseason proved it. The Lakers went out and ratings fell 40%. The Knicks followed and things got even worse. That drop-off hurts more than just the networks. It cuts directly into the NBA's ability to sell itself on the biggest stages. Without those major teams carrying the spotlight deep into the playoffs, there's less national buzz. Matchups between small market teams might be competitive, but they don't bring in the numbers. The NBA loses cultural relevance, and worse, it loses leverage with advertisers and media partners. But this isn't just a business problem, it's also a reflection of how the modern fan consumes the game. Because now, people don't need to sit through 4 quarters to stay caught up. And that's where things start to change. The way fans consume basketball today is completely different from even 10 years ago. Most young viewers aren't watching full games anymore. They're watching 15-second clips on TikTok or scrolling through Instagram, highlights, a big dunk, a buzzer beater, a crossover. Those moments spread fast, get millions of views, and then it's on to the next one. That's where the NBA is losing control. The league doesn't own the platform. They don't own the attention. What's happening now is that the most exciting parts of the game are being consumed outside of the NBA's ecosystem. People are watching the best plays without tuning into the actual game, which means the league is bleeding viewers without even realizing it. And here's the real issue. If fans don't feel the need to watch live, the value of the live product drops. That's where TV ratings shrink. That's where broadcast deals start to look less attractive. The game is being clipped, repackaged, and turned into content by creators who aren't affiliated with the NBA. Meanwhile, the league is left scrambling to maintain viewership on its platforms. This isn't about attention spans, it's about ownership. The NBA doesn't own the space it used to dominate, and unless they figure out how to adapt their product for digital consumption without losing the essence of live basketball, they risk becoming just another background sound in a fast-moving feed. But the shift isn't only affecting how fans experience the game, it's also changing how players live it. And that pressure, relentless, public, and constant, is reshaping what it means to be a star in today's NBA. Being the face of the NBA used to be a dream. Think about what it meant to be Jordan, Kobe, or even LeBron. Global icon status, endorsements, influence, legacy. But now, that spotlight feels more like a target. Social media has changed everything. Today's stars don't just deal with on-court pressure. They're under constant scrutiny every hour of the day. One bad game, one post-game comment, one tweet, and they're trending for all the wrong reasons. It's no longer just sports coverage, it's public judgment nonstop. Even Michael Jordan said he's not sure he could have handled the kind of scrutiny players face today. That says a lot. And LeBron? He's been the face of the league for nearly 2 decades. And while he's accomplished more than almost anyone, he's also faced more criticism than most players combined. Every move dissected, every mistake amplified, every success is followed by doubt. That's why we're seeing something different now. Players don't want that role anymore. No one's rushing to be the next face of the league. Not because they can't perform at that level, but because the cost of that attention has become too high. The fame, the pressure, the expectations, it's draining. And the league feels it. Without a clear figurehead, the NBA loses a central narrative. There's no single player everyone's tuning in to watch. No unifying star to carry the league forward. The talent is there, but the willingness to take on the responsibility that comes with being the guy just isn't. And this hesitation to step into the spotlight ties back to a deeper shift. More and more players are looking elsewhere. Not just for peace of mind, but for a completely different basketball experience. This is something a lot of people still aren't paying enough attention to. More and more NBA players are looking overseas, not just as a last resort, but as a real alternative. And it's not hard to understand why. In leagues across Europe and other parts of the world, players are finding something they're missing in the NBA: peace, purpose, and respect. The tax systems in many of these countries are more favorable. The pressure from media and fans is more supportive than hostile. And most importantly, players are treated like actual professionals, not content creators. In the NBA, everything is public. Every play is a clip. Every game is a debate. For some players, especially veterans or role players, the constant noise isn't worth it. Overseas, they're finding tighter locker rooms, more team-first systems, and fan bases that show appreciation even when you're not dropping 30 a night. You also have to consider lifestyle. Playing in Spain, Italy, Australia, or even Japan offers a completely different rhythm. Less travel, more structure, more personal time. It's a chance to play the game without carrying the weight of online judgment or being squeezed out by the cap system back home. And that brings us back to the NBA's growing problem. If the league keeps pushing out the middle class of players, those essential glue guys, locker room leaders, and culture setters, what's left? A top-heavy league full of stars with no support, no depth, and no identity. That's a dangerous direction, especially when even fans are starting to tune out. The league can't just fix this with contracts and marketing. It needs a deeper shift. And that leads us to the question, can the NBA even fix this before it's too late? The NBA isn't collapsing tomorrow, but it's drifting. Slowly, steadily, and publicly. The signs are everywhere. Falling viewership, disinterested fans, role players being forced out, big markets losing their influence, and a star system that's burning players out instead of building them up. The question now is, can the league course correct? It starts with the product on the floor. The game has to feel alive again. That means encouraging diversity in play styles, not just chasing efficiency. Bring back the mid-range. Reward physical post-play. Give room for teams to develop identities that don't just live behind the arc. Financially, the league has to rethink the two-apron system. Right now, it's punishing teams for trying to build depth. It's making roster construction rigid and wiping out the veterans and role players who make playoff basketball watchable. There has to be a way to keep parity without killing team chemistry. From a media standpoint, the NBA needs to get ahead of how fans consume content. That means leaning into short-form platforms while also making the live game more accessible, more interactive, and more valuable. You can't compete with TikTok by pretending it doesn't exist. You have to meet fans where they are and give them a reason to stay. And most importantly, the league has to protect its players, not just physically, but mentally. If no one wants to be the face of the league anymore, that's not a branding issue. It's a culture issue. The NBA has to create an environment where stars are supported, not sacrificed. The league still has time. It still has talent. It still has a global audience that wants to care. But the clock is ticking, because if these trends continue, if fans keep tuning out, if players keep leaving, if the game keeps hollowing out, the NBA could go from cultural powerhouse to just another brand trying to stay relevant. The warning signs are clear. Now it's about whether the league listens. But what do you think? Should the NBA make those changes? Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.